Hey everybody, let's look at some more things going on with the entertainment business right now. In the past years, we've talked about how the focus on franchise films had stopped the business from developing its own stars and would cause box office to collapse once people got sick of those franchises, how supercomputers will take over entertainment, and how video game movies would be the next wave, and I think we're seeing those play out. But let's look at one related specifically to another issue, which is why a lot of franchises are failing. And let's do that by examining the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Now, the series is of course very long, so we're going to speak in general about the choices made with the setup of the franchise and why I think those went wrong. First, we've discussed previously how people who take over multi-billion-dollar franchises often aren't satisfied with grossing even more money, and thus have to find new goals that tend to lead them toward personal agendas, which is one of the major things that happened with Star Wars. And I do think that was one of the reasons why they did what they did here, which was change the series to focus on a female protagonist. But I think the issues came because they didn't just do that. That general concept, a female lead in a fantasy action story, is totally fine. The Hunger Games made a lot of money, I watched it. People love Joan of Arc, she was a real person, and has been the subject of a ton of books and films. And of course, entertainment targeted towards women has no problems drawing an audience and making money in other ways either, like with Barbie. But I think in this case, that decision was made for reasons besides pure entertainment, and that led to a lot of other problems. For one, as a lot of people noticed, it came off as disrespectful to the Lord of the Rings property. Galadriel is an existing character, and a powerful one, but the creators chose to demonstrate that power in a way that diminished characters and things that audiences had already seen and also liked. The obvious example being Galadriel effortlessly killing a giant troll, when previously we'd seen these same type of trolls pose an extreme threat to the other main characters. The desired effect here is to make Galadriel look powerful, but it actually just ruins the audience's belief in what they're seeing, and makes it look like the creators either don't know or don't care about the world of the story or the previous movies.
When the giant comes out, who has chokeslammed Luger and Sting, when he does it to you, that you can't no-sell it.
It doesn't make you better in the perception of the viewer. It makes the whole product suck.
Right.
It seems instead that they had another goal, which wasn't related to writing normally. And to be honest, that goal comes across in many of the other scenes in the story, where they specifically seem out to demonstrate that she's better than all the men. This is not actually necessary to create a strong female character, and seems more to come from a desire to be negative about a certain group of people. This might not be a problem in other types of film, but when it comes to things like sword and sorcery, the large majority of your audience, the people who you expect to give you their time or money, are men. So that's not going to end well. But that's been said before. There's actually another thing here that bothers me too. Because while of course the combat itself is illogical in multiple ways, the actual underlying setup of this, to me, is kind of depressing. Because whoever wrote these scenes, regardless of what gender they are, looks like they don't actually know what competence is. This isn't a story about someone discovering their potential or using their talent to help others. It's a story about someone just bullying other people, wanting to do the most shallow and selfish parts, with no idea of how it actually is. If you have young people who look up to you, or any position where you have to make decisions and help others, I'm sure you know the self-doubt, the fear of letting people down, the actual amount of planning and many other things that go into that. Those are the types of things that a real interesting story about a powerful role model hero should have, or a fantasy for people who imagine becoming that. But we don't have that story here. If anything, it's more of a propaganda film that was made out of frustration over what people were seeing in politics and social media, and resulted in anger being directed towards other people who happen to share a category with someone they dislike. And it's not just that, the attacking of most of your own audience, that's the problem. It's that the product itself can't even work for the rest of the audience. Because the Lord of the Rings franchise, like other franchises, has a certain formula that is set up to deliver a certain experience for a certain group of people that like that experience. Starring an innocent kid like them, who gets drawn into a fantastic adventure with combat, strong and cool adult male friends, growing into one's own manhood, and other things. These are all the kind of thing that one group of people likes to see. Most commonly boys, although it's actually more about hormones, and a woman taking a testosterone shot would probably like it more as well. But when you take that setup, and you cut out the boy at the center and his whole story, and try to put in an adult, female empowerment superhero, you're essentially getting in your own way.
The dish that managed to piss off the locals. What the f*** are you thinking about putting banana and chicken together? Let food taste of what it should.
So you have a product that is just inherently flawed. Some people will watch it because it says Lord of the Rings. Some people will watch it because they like the political agenda or a certain actor, but you'll always get those types of viewers. And the core fandom, the word-of-mouth audience building, and the repeat viewers that you can draw with an actual great product are not there. Which means that when you need a huge amount of viewers to break even on your budget, you're destined to fail. But we've seen this before. A lot of writers and producers know how to do a good job, and they've seen this type of product do poorly also. So why do they insist on making these types of shows and movies? Well, like we've talked about, a lot of people recently feel like other people have turned evil. Due to politics, things we've seen over the last 8 years, they think half the country or more has gone crazy and is out to hurt them or others. When you end up in that situation, your entire mode of thinking changes. Your brain literally has a chemical that turns off your ability to identify with others or even have normal emotional reactions. And as such, they literally are incapable of seeing the humanity of people outside their group, and they can only act in a fundamentally selfish way to try to protect themselves, their possessions, and their self-esteem from what they perceive as the evil of others. If we're legitimately dealing with selfishness or evil, then that response is correct in order to survive. But if we're mistaken, then that behavior actually can make us evil ourselves. It's a tricky situation, but it's the one we're all stuck in. And how did we end up here? I don't know for certain, but my best guess is that social media, which cuts off our access to seeing each other's body language, limits our statements to slogans, and separates people into bubbles that are fed only opinions from one side, probably stopped our basic process of communicating and having to coexist with people who don't agree with us. In that situation, we've reduced each other to cartoon characters and not actual humans. And when you don't see the humanity of others or the audience, you can't understand what they're feeling or have the basic desire to share positive things with them. And you need that in order to create something good. Hopefully soon, if people see that this isn't working, we can come together again and get back on the right track. Until then, thanks. Please like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned.